So, done the same with the rope. I've also done the same with the nails. So you can see on the nails, I've got colour var, which I've also put roughness on as well. I've only done one on that. I could do another one, and again, carry on doing it. We have the rope, so I've got a couple of colour variations. This one I've actually, as a mask, used in fact, let me show you. So this is the darker areas. So what I've done with this is, let me just click on this. As a fill, I've actually used a curvature map, which is getting the, you can see the white and black on that. I've had an invert, so the white areas become the areas that we see through, or see into, darker areas we see through. I've had a blur to that to blur it out a little bit. It's probably too much, to be honest. And then I've added levels to actually create more contrast on this. So maybe something like that. Actually, I'm going to take this levels down a little bit. So we're getting something like that. I may go back to the fill and just play around with this again. Okay. And that's just drawing out that. It's kind of building on the height a little more. We're going to add to that a different way as well. So let's just add a couple of other things on this. So one of the things we might have is some stamps or decals, graphics, you know, different things on this. So let's have a look at that. So on the top, I'm going to add another fill there. Let's call this decals, and let's make this a darker color. I'm going to leave the height for now. I'm going to take off the roughness, the metal, and the normal. Just have color and height, just for now. So let's add a mask, black mask. And then I'm going to use my brush. So I've got my brush itself. And on my brush, we have this alpha. So right now, it's just a circle. So if I do that, it's going to stamp that on. What I'm going to use instead is I'm going to go into my, let's just bring this out. There we go. I'm going to go into my stamps or my alphas. So let's say we were doing something like this way up. Let's grab that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in. We can play around with this a little bit. So if you press Control down, it actually brings up the options for you. We've also got a few of the options up here, or I also have things like the rotation and everything down here as well. So I'm just going to do that. So if I Control and left click, I'm doing rotation. Control and zoom in and out, I'm doing the size. Control and right click, I'm actually, I think, changing the hardness of it. So let's do something like that. Okay. Let's do one at the other side. So that's this way up. Obviously, making your own masks for this is so much better, and you can do that in Photoshop. Let's just see what else we got. Maybe it's got a royal seal on it. So again, I can Control, left click to just create rotation on that. Control, zoom in and out. And let's create some kind of symbol on that as well. So on this, if you want to, so this looks okay, but it looks a little tidy, a little neat. We want this to look a little more warm. So let's go in. I'm going to add a paint layer. So over the top of this, I'm adding paint. Just going to go into my brushes. And actually, if I go down, let's just switch off the mask for now. So we're using no mask on there. If I go into my brushes, I'm going to choose something like a noise brush. So let's have a look. Let's have a look what we've got actually. Let's try something like a dirt spot. So let's click on that. So with this, I want to actually, if I just start painting now, I'm painting in black. I want to start painting this out. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to change this brush color to black. And what that means is I'm now going to be painting out what I've already got. So if I go over this now, I can just start. And this is actually better with a graphics tablet. Start sort of going into this and cutting out. Can change the brush size up and down. We've got a size. I use these square brackets. The same kind of thing in Photoshop. You can just go in and, you know, if you want that really worn out in certain areas, we can do that. Let's do the same down here. Let's do the same on this side. Okay. Let's add some text. So if I go back to my decal, so actually you can do different paint layers on this as well. I'm going to go back to the decal layer. And I'm just going to go back to a standard brush. So one of the basic hard brushes. If you have one that's got scatter and different things, it can cause problems with it. So do be careful. In fact, I'll show you. So if I go back to something like a dirt brush. This is it's actually not doing anything at the minute because it's painting out. But let me go down and add this to white. You can see now I'm painting in. And let me add an alpha to this now. So alpha, I'm actually going to add some text. So we just scroll down near the bottom somewhere. Here we go. So over these different text things, there are only a few different types. If you need more, then you can actually add. Again, you can do in Photoshop. You can just use a certain font and you can create use that one. You can create like an atlas with your text. So let's go in. Let's just go on to this. We've got our text here. So let's type ammo. Okay, let's just resize this. So control and let's just right click. And then when I paint it, it kind of paints all over the place. And this is because of that brush. We've got a lot of properties on that. And these can be fantastic. So we've got this size jitter, flow jitter, angle jitter, and position jitter. But if we just want to place something somewhere, then we need to have all these down. And then I can just stamp that on. Sometimes an easier way to do that is actually go to your brush and just go back to the basic brushes. And that will get rid of all those as well. It's got rid of my mask as well. But we can just easily bring that back. So just a note on that. Let's find that again. I think I've gone past it. Oh, there are some different bits of text as well on there. But obviously if you want certain things. Where are you, text? Here we go. So it was that one there. Let's just go up. Find the text. Let's again just type in ammo. Let's control. I'm going to just do a bit of a rotation on that. Just do that. Because this isn't the mask as well. Oh, actually, because you're not clicking on this one. We're just clicking on other things. Sometimes, if you want this just to be on this mask layer, we can actually, if it's accidentally painted on something else, I can bring this down to the wood layer or to the wood group and have it on top, and then I can't accidentally paint on anything else as well. So let me go back to the paint layer again. Let's just go back to my brush and let's go on. Maybe something like that. Let's bring this brush size down. Again, oops. Let's go down to, let's bring this up. Go down to our color, change this to black, and just start. Just adding some damage to that. I'm doing this really quickly now, but just to show you the kind of things you can do. Okay. So final couple of things. Over everything, there's a couple of things I can do with this. So one of the things I sometimes like to do is add the ambient occlusion to just make some of this pop a little more. So what I'm going to do on the top of everything is just click on our fill layer. I'm going to call this AO. We've already got ambient occlusion on this, but just to make it a bit stronger. And actually this is a really nice thing to do if you've got a really stylized texture. So I'm just going to alt click on color just to have that on its own. I'm going to click on the base color actually, just on this one now. So I don't need a mask on this. I'm going to put this straight on. And if I just go in and search for AO, we have our ambient occlusion here. So that's putting that ambient occlusion over the entire thing. Obviously that's getting rid of all the color and everything else. So what I need to do is use a blend mode here. And again, this is a really powerful thing and something to play around with. So if I go on the blend mode, I'm going to go to this multiply, which is going to keep the darker areas and get rid of the lighter areas. So if you just look at this, you see that's really popping into the shadows. So it's generally, unless you were doing a really stylized piece, it's generally too strong. So I am also going to bring down the strength of this. So it's just bringing a bit more shadow on that. It depends on the kind of look you want. So other things I like to do in a similar vein, just to add an overall variation to things. I'm going to do another fill there. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to alt click on the color. And this time I'm going to go into my textures. I'm going to search for a grunge. And let's have a look. I'm going to choose something just interesting. Quite a lot of dark and light areas. Let's try that. So that's going to go over everything. And again, I don't really want that. So I'm going to go back to my blend mode. I'm going to go into my multiply. And actually, what I can do now is just use my cursors. So I'll go down. So if I find something that I like, I'm quite liking keeping the lighter areas. That's quite nice, which is a color dodge. Okay, once we get to the bottom, it doesn't do as much. So let's just go back up to some of my color blends. Quite like that one. It's too strong, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fade this out a bit. Bring this in. So I'm just adding variation on top of everything. And what I may do is do that a couple of times. So if I just duplicate that. So this is, let's call it texture var 01. Texture var 02. I'm just going to bring another fill on this. So I'll bring up the strength of this completely. Let me just take it back to normal. Let's try a different texture. Or, yep. Let's try this one. So again, I'm just going to go down to multiply. I'm going to go through these. Oops. Click on this, and then let's go down. So what we're doing is either keeping the lighter areas or the darker areas, or in the middle where we've got things like an overlay, we're keeping a bit of the mid-tones as well. Quite like that. So again, just take that and let's just fade that out a bit. Okay. So let's just look at that without. So you can see the sort of variation it's bringing in. But subtly building up, not doing it really obviously in your face. And then one of the last things I'm going to do in terms of adding this detail is I'm going to add some dirt onto this. So with this one, I'm going to add another fill there. Let's call this dirt. Let's go in, add a colour, and I'm going to add roughness to this. I'm going to take the roughness completely down because dirt is going to be completely matte. To do a similar thing with dust. Let me just make sure I've got the colour on as well. My colour is going to be, I'm going to put this to a bit of red, so I've got like a bit of brown on this. Maybe it's got some mud on it. And then what we can do with this is I'm going to go into my smart masks. So over here we have these smart masks. If I just take off this search, we've got a couple of different options. And again, it's just playing around with these. So we've got dust surf. If I actually do like dirt dry, something like that maybe. So what we do with this is we drag it on. We have our mask and we drag it into our mask. And there we go. So these use your baked maps again to add dirt into certain places. So let's, for example, let me just get rid of that. I'm not bothered about that one. Let's add a dirt cavities. Again, just go over so you get on the mask. Put that in there. So you can see that's adding it into the darker areas where dust would naturally, or dirt would naturally settle. And if we don't like that, we can go in and we can just bring this down as well. It's on the mask builder on this one. So let's just bring that down. So we can make it a bit more subtle. And you can actually build up those masks. Actually, this one is a combination of different things as well. So we can build that up. So this is my detailing on this. So what I'm just going to do is select these 4 layers. I'm going to Control G. I'm going to call this detail. Now when I put all these together, it actually, let me just show you if I do this in normal, it gets rid of all our masking on that in terms of our blend modes. If I just change this to pass through, it looks for everything and uses all our blend modes on top. So it still has those within there. So I have that kind of look. Okay, so again, just taking that off, bringing that on. Okay, so I leave that at that point. But if we just think where we started from, let me just go away and bring these down. I'm just going to bring these down. This wood. So I started off with this really plain looking crate. Started our wood in. We had our rope in. We've got our nails in there. And then we've got all that detail that we can add on top as well. And I can still fade this out. I can still fade all of the individual bits out, just to make it whatever you want it to be. Okay. So that's just some texturing, just kind of approaching it, setting up base materials, and then start adding the materials and all the detail.